Hello and welcome to Quantum Spark Jumpstart Introduction. This is one of my favorite products, Quantum Spark. And this series is a Jumpstart program, meaning you have this wonderful product at your hands and you want to know how to get started with this product, how to efficiently protect your organization with this solution. Well, you've come to the right place, because by the end of this training, you'll be able to deploy Quantum Spark within your organization and start to efficiently protect your organization. We'll also perform some administrative tasks within Quantum Spark, for example, VPN, management options, meaning how do you want to manage your device? Locally from the box, from a different box, or maybe from the cloud. How to set up wireless network. How to get updates. How to configure and modify your security policy. How to run upgrades. Troubleshooting, and of course, monitoring. So we're going to have a lot of fun together. So Quantum Spark is an appliance suitable for the small and medium business. Because if you have a bigger organization, you might go with one of our bigger appliances. It depends, for example, on the throughput and the blades you want to enable. So Quantum Spark is right here. And if we will zoom in on the small to medium businesses appliances, we can see these beautiful appliances. For example, the 1535, which can support up to 440 megabit per second and supports Wi-Fi 6. And up to the 1595, which can support 900 megabit per second, Wi-Fi 6, and a 5G network. Amazing. Quantum Spark, what a solution. I really like the definition of Spark. It's an enterprise-grade security for small to medium-sized businesses. All-inclusive security, next-generation threat prevention, application control and URL filtering, IPS, antivirus, anti-bot, anti-spam, sandblast, threat emulation, which you might know as sandboxing. It provides the same level of security as a quantum gateway. It's integrated with Wi-Fi 6, which is new and exciting, XDSL, and cellular traffic with the latest 5G network. It is easy to deploy and manage, and it's a real all-in-one solution. You have on-the-go real-time security alerts and remediation using the Watchtower mobile app, which will have a great video on it. You get simple and insightful reporting. And look at this beautiful throughput, 2.8 gigabits per second firewall, 900 megabits per second of threat prevention, and perhaps the crown jewel, Quantum SD-WAN support, so you get optimal app performance. So during the demos, I'm going to use this topology. This is my home network, so I have my home router at the end. It's an ISP router, it's a dumb router, so every traffic it gets, it just forwards it back to its destination. During the demos, I'm going to use a real live topology. It's going to be connected to my home router at home. It's a dumb ISP router, meaning no firewall rules or special configuration, just your out-of-the-box ISP router. The network it's managing is 192.168.1.0/24. It's a Class C network. On this network, I have my own PC, which I'm going to use to manage it all. That's going to be my admin machine. I have a PBX server, which will allow me to conduct voice over IP calls within my network. I have a VoIP phone on my network as well. I have an Active Directory server running Windows Server, so I'm going to use it to create users and then integrate it with my Quantum Spark, which is right here. I have a Quantum Spark device, and it also hosts its own private and protected network behind it with one PC. The structure of the course is going to be very simple. I'm going to start with a brief introduction like this one. This one is some sort of introduction as well. But it's going to be an introduction per the topic we'll discuss, followed by a demonstration. So you'll know exactly how to get started with your appliance. So it's going to be cool, and most importantly, it's going to be real, because I have a real device. I'm going to install it. No smoke and mirrors. You're going to get the real appliance out of the box and installed to give you the best security, because you deserve the best security. So without any further ado, or actually you may pause the video, because you can pause the video, but anyway, let's get started. Installation. By the end of this training, you'll be able to install the operating system as a VNF and run the first-time wizard. If you want to play with Quantum Spark, you can either use it as an appliance, a physical device that's right in front of you and you can actually hear it and touch it and smell it, if that's what you like, or you can use it as a VNF, meaning as a virtual machine. The operating system is going to be Gaia embedded. It's slightly different than the regular Gaia you all know and love. If you're using an appliance, then the operating system is pre-installed, meaning you plug it in, the operating system is already running. But if you're using a VNF, you'll need to install the Gaia embedded yourself, which is actually really easy, so you don't need to worry about it. First-time wizard is something you'll need to do on both appliance and VNF. This is the product installation, so you'll select if you want to manage this device directly or maybe from a dedicated management server. You'll set up the credentials and access to the device. You'll enable the blades you want to have. Networking settings, for example, if you want to get an IP using a DHCP, or maybe you're going to add it statically, and so on. Set up zero touch, or actually that's the time to use zero touch if you've configured that. And also, if you have internet connection, you're going to obtain the license automatically. If not, you can do it offline or just set it up later as well. So all of these settings will be configured during the first time wizard. During the demo, we'll do two things. One, we'll install the VNF. If you want to use the VNF, you need to either have the ISO or maybe the OVF file if you're using VM Workstation, and some sort of virtualization software. In this case, I'm going to use VMware Workstation. For the first-time wizard, you'll need to be familiar with the network topology you're using, so you'll know where to plug it in, which IP address to use, and so on. You'll need a browser, and you will need an Ethernet cable. So this is my topology. I'm going to connect my admin machine directly to the LAN 1 network, so I can go ahead and get an IP address and start managing the device. And actually in this demo, I'm going to connect my appliance using a SIM card to the internet using the cellular data package and not directly to my home router, just for this demo. To install Quantum Spark as a VNF, I'm going to SK 168204. And down here, I can see the available downloads, so either as OVF files or as ISO. And I've already downloaded this file. I'm going to download it again. So you get a TGZ file, I've extracted it. And now from VMware Workstation, in my case, I'm going to open a virtual machine. I'm going to browse to the location of the OVF file that I've extracted. Give it a name. Location is fine. Import. I'm going to edit the virtual machine settings. By default, I have two network interfaces. I'm going to modify them and place them on a different VMnet. And I'm going to add a third adapter. Now, I still don't know which interface is which, meaning I don't know if this is the WAN adapter, if this is the DMZ adapter, I don't know. So I'll turn it on and then we'll know together. Press OK. And power on. In this specific VNF, I was using an OVF. So the operating system was already installed. And now I can just log in with admin. Default password is admin again. And now I have access to Clish, and I can go ahead and do whatever it is that I want. I can change the adapter, IP address, I can change the host name, whatever it is I want to do. Now, I do want to know the interface's assignment. So I'm going to set up expert password. I'm going to enter expert mode, and I'm going to display the MAC addresses just so I can know which interface is which. Okay, so now I can see DMZ, LAN 1, and WAN, and I can see the MAC addresses. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to access the virtual machine settings. And I can see the MAC address of CC is network adapter 1. So network adapter 1 is DMZ. So I'm going to place it on VMnet 3. Second adapter is D6. D6 is the LAN 1. So I'm going to assign it to, I don't know, VMnet 1. And the last one, E0, that's the WAN adapter. So in my case, I'm going to modify this to NAT. And that's it. I've successfully installed a VNF. To run the first time wizard, I need browser access to the appliance. So I'm going to take my admin machine, connect an Ethernet cable to the port. Now in this case, the appliance is running as a DHCP server, so I'm going to obtain an IP address automatically, and I'll know the address of the device is something something something.1, and if not, I'll show you how to check it. And then you'll need to open up a browser session, https:// the IP address of the appliance, which you'll need to figure out. But it's not going to use the regular port for HTTPS, it's going to use port 4434. Okay, so let's see it. So here I have all of my network adapters. This is the adapter that's currently connected to the appliance. So I'm going to the status, details. So the IP address that I'm getting is 192.168.1.224. My default gateway is 1.1. So that's the IP of my Quantum Spark. I'm going to open up a browser, type in the IP address 192.168.1.1:4434 and press enter. So the connection is not private because the appliance is presenting me with a certificate that is self-signed, so I'm not aware of that certificate. I'm going to go ahead and approve. And this is the first time wizard. Now, currently I don't have zero touch, so I'm not going to be able to use that. I'm going to set up next the administrator name and password. So I'm going to stay with admin, but I will change the password. I don't want password complexity, so I'm going to leave that unchecked. Help us improve. Yeah, sure, why not? Press next. Date and time, it's okay. I'm not using a network time protocol, so I'm going to leave that off. Press next. My appliance name, I'm going to change it. I don't have a domain. I'm going to manage my device locally, and we'll elaborate on it on a later video. But basically it means I'm going to manage the device and policy by using the local web application. Unlike if you're going to use central management, it means you have a dedicated management server to manage this box. But I'm going to stay with local management. How would you like to obtain internet access? In this case, my internet access is not over a DHCP or an Ethernet cable. It's actually using cellular. So I have my SIM card in. I'm going to press connect. And of course, if you want, you can always configure internet connection later. I'm connected. Here's my IP address. Press next. Now it asks me, how do I want to configure the LAN network? So I'm going to configure the LAN network to be actually .2, like so. The subnet mask is fine. The DHCP is being calculated automatically. I don't have an exclusion range. Press next. Now this setting right here is very interesting. How would you like those 8 ports to behave? Meaning, if I enable this, those 8 ports are acting as a switch, meaning they're all connected to the same LAN network. However, if I'll uncheck it, I'm currently only configuring port 1. So if I'll have another computer connected to port 2, that's going to be an entirely different network. So you can go ahead and modify this now or later. In my case, I'm going to set it up as a single network. Press next. In this window, it asks me if I want to set up the wireless network. Currently, I don't want that. I'll configure the wireless network later. How do you want the administrator to access the device? I'm going to allow the administrator to access the device from any connection and from any IP address. Of course, if you want better security, you can go ahead and modify it, but in this lab, I'm going to leave it as following. It's going to register my appliance. I do have internet connectivity, so this should work, and I have obtained my license. Which blades I want on, I'll use all of them. And that's it. Here's a summary. I'm going to go ahead and approve it. I'm done. I have my appliance running and ready. Web UI Overview. By the end of this training, you'll be able to log in to the Web UI and describe the functionality of each tab. The Web UI is a web application, so you'll need a browser if you want to use it properly. And basically it means that you're going to use a PC to connect over HTTPS to your Quantum Spark. And notice that by default, we don't use the classic port for HTTPS, but port 4434. Just because it's more secure this way. From this Web UI, you'll be able to manage the device itself and configure the security policy. So unlike the classic architecture where you use the Gaia Web UI only to manage Gaia as an operating system, when you're using Quantum Spark, you're using the Web UI to do both device configuration and security policy. These are the main tabs from within the Web UI. So you have in home mainly overviews, device. This is mainly device configuration like IP addresses, network addresses, upgrades, and so on. Things related to the access policy, the threat prevention policy, VPN connections, if it's site to site or from a client or from an application, user and objects, and finally logs and monitoring. If you're ever feeling lost, from the home page, under Overview, you have the sitemap. In the sitemap, you have all the different links simply laid out, so you can easily find whatever it is you want to do. And of course, you can always just go to the previous page and search for the option you want. But some people like this display, so it's here as well if you prefer it. For this demonstration, you will need connectivity to your Quantum Spark, and you'll need to know the credentials of the appliance so you'll be able to log in and do your stuff. Here's my appliance, so I'm currently at the home page. So here under System, I see the system information, my version, the device name, the MAC address, my uptime. Network, I can see that I do have the internet connected. I'm currently connected over cellular. This is my IP address. Wireless networks are turned off. In this case, I have dual channels. The Watchtower mobile app, currently I still haven't set it up, but I can set it up from here. Network activity here below. Notifications. So for example, earlier today, I've set up a test. So I see the malicious file was indeed blocked. Security dashboard. I can see the different blades. I can see that they're enabled, and I can go ahead and modify them from here. Security management. So we'll talk about this in a different lesson, but currently my device is locally managed, meaning I'm managing everything straight from this box, from the web UI, but I can go ahead and change central, and then it means I'll manage this box from a security management server. Here you can configure a cloud service provider that can handle your security policy and supply a variety of services. Yeah, I just read it from here. But in other words, for example, if you're using Spark management, you can set it up from here. And we'll do this in a later video. License. So you can see the services that I'm using, my MAC address, my registration key. Currently was activated automatically. So for example, a few months ago, I had to modify my license. So after I've modified my license, I've just clicked reactivate. And it pulled information again, and it got the update that I have a different license. Or of course, you can do it offline as well. This is the sitemap that we've discussed earlier. The monitoring tab, so I can see the notifications, the active devices that are currently connected to my device, monitoring information. Okay, so I can see all of the different applications that were being used, so this is quite nice. I can see Checkpoint IPsec. It's because my computer is connected over a VPN, so I have that traffic. Different reports. This is a really nice report that you can generate. Tools. We'll talk about this in a later video, but this is troubleshooting tools to get insights or to run diagnostic tools. And support information. Moving on to device. So as we mentioned, this is where you manage the device from. So you have network settings, like for example, if you want to set up the wireless network, set up the local network. And we've discussed this in a previous video where you can go ahead and configure how the device will behave. Will it act as one big switch or as separate LANs? So you can customize it from here as well. System operations, you can go ahead and run upgrades, set up administrators, the administrator access, and you have lots of information here. Advanced routing, this is actually really cool. Certificates, high availability settings, and so on. Access policy, everything related to your security policy, but we'll discuss this in a later video. Threat prevention, everything related to threat prevention, for example, IPS, antivirus, anti-bot, threat emulation, they're all enabled and up to date, which is important. And I can see the policy that's being used. VPN. I currently don't have any VPN sites, but in the future, we'll set it up straight from here. Users and objects. So in a later video, we'll connect our Quantum Spark to Active Directory. So we'll be able to pull information about the organization from Active Directory. And finally, logs and monitor, which gives you great insights about what's going on within your organization.
Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Policy out-of-the-box state. By the end of this training, you'll be able to describe the out-of-the-box state of Quantum Spark and review current policies. So right after First-Time Wizard, you are protected. Out of the box, you've completed First-Time Wizard, you're already protected. Because if you'll take a look at the policy, you'll see that by default, you have the standard policy. Now, unlike the classic firewall architecture when you're using Quantum Firewall or Quantum Gateway, there, the default policy is any drop. But this is an SMB device. It's Quantum Spark. So it's ready to protect you. Okay? So the default policy is to allow traffic to the internet on all services allow traffic between internal networks and trusted wireless networks, block incoming traffic, and as for application control, it's going to block security risk categories. So right out of the box, you'll be able to go to the internet, you'll be able to access other internal networks in your organization, but any random incoming traffic, and we're not talking about replies to your traffic, this is just someone trying to access your internal network, that's going to be dropped. Let's have a look. So if you want to have a look yourself, make sure you have connectivity to Quantum Spark and that you have the right credentials for the appliance. So here I am on my appliance. You can see it's the Quantum Spark 1590 appliance. And here under Firewall Policy, I can see indeed everything we saw on the slide. And if I'll go to Policy, I can see the actual policy in a well-known and lovable format and a rule base. So I can see outgoing access. I have any source to internet destination. And if the application or service is undesired applications, then I can double tap, and I can see which are those unwanted or undesired applications. I can see that it will be blocked with a log. Next, I have the any to the internet on any service except with no log. And then I'm going to have the incoming. If it's someone from within the LAN networks to any destination on any service, yes, they can do whatever they want. Anything else, that's the classic cleanup rule. So these rules are auto-generated. It's similar to the auto-generated rules you have with NAT when you use classic quantum. Okay, so it's good as is, but if you want, you can always go ahead and add a new rule and customize it to look however you want your security policy to behave. You can go ahead and modify and add additional rules.
Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Policy customization. By the end of this training, you'll be able to modify firewall and application control policy and create a manual rule. The basics of a policy is any traffic can be categorized into its own source, destination, and service. So for example, I can say any traffic coming from any destination can be my DMZ, for example. Service can be FTP. So whenever traffic comes in and we can match it to a rule with these categories, we have an action. The action can be drop or accept. As we saw in a previous video, you already have default rules to protect your organization. However, in this video, we'll see how to customize it and add more rules to your policy. In order to demonstrate this, you'll need access to your Quantum Spark, you'll need to have the right credentials, and you'll need to know what's the organization's network and security needs. Do you want to block that website? Do you want to allow that website? And so on. Here I am from Access Policy. I'm going to enable block file sharing applications. And let's press Apply. I'm now connected to a new client, which is protected by Quantum Spark, meaning all of my traffic here goes through Quantum Spark. Let's try access Dropbox. The site can't be reached. Now let's try to access WeTransfer. Blocked as well. So currently, this rule that I've enabled blocks Dropbox as well, because it's a file sharing application. I'm going to Policy. Let's refresh this page. So now if I'll go to Undesired Applications, I have file sharing applications as well. Now, I want to override it. So yes, I want to block file sharing application, but Dropbox is a website that I do want to use. I do want to allow that website. So I'll need to override this. I'm going to create a manual rule on top. Source, let's have it specific from our LAN networks. Destination is internet. An application, let's search for Dropbox. Accept, keep a log, no need to modify any of that, press apply. Okay, now let's go back to the Windows client machine. Refresh. And now it works, because now I've added a manual rule to allow that specific traffic. In my case, it was Dropbox, but you can go ahead and add whatever traffic you want to allow within your organization. Thank you for watching. Policy Smart Excel. By the end of this training, you'll be able to enable Smart Excel and customize Smart Excel. Have a look at this list. We have Apple, Checkpoint services, Google services, Microsoft updates, media streaming services, Amazon, Disney Plus, and Netflix. Now, can you think of what ties them all together? They're all at low risk because we're talking about traffic from Apple, from streaming services, from Google, from Microsoft. So they are currently low risk. Smart Excel is a beautiful feature that we have that will bypass these low risk services and will give you better performance. So in other words, it means you can bypass the network inspection for these specific objects. Services such as those corporate services, media streaming services, and so on. Assets, so devices such as computer, audio player, or alarm can be bypassed. This improves connectivity and optimizes the load on the Quantum Spark Security Gateway. To go ahead and utilize this tool yourself, make sure you have connectivity to Quantum Spark, make sure you have the right credentials, and the organization's network and security needs. Because I assume your organization, for example, uses web conferencing applications. So in that case, you would like to have that service bypassed. However, in some organizations, streaming is forbidden from within the corporate network. So you don't want to bypass, you just want to block that, right? To enable Smart Excel, simply go to Access Policy, Smart Excel, and currently it's on. You can just tap it, set it to off, or turn it on again. If you want to customize Smart Excel, you can click the All Services selected and select exactly what services you want to accelerate or not. For example, I can go ahead and remove TikTok or Skype or WebEx or Zoom and whatever you like. So very easy to turn it on, very easy to customize it. And if you want to see the assets, this is here under Policy Bypass. You can just turn it on. And then again, it can bypass specific assets within your network, like alarm clocks, audio players, and so on.
Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Voice over IP, or VoIP, is a key element in an organization of any size. No need for the classic PSTN infrastructure. All you need is TCP/IP. And since in between the networks we have a security gateway, we will need to allow this traffic in the policy. In earlier version of Quantum Spark, you had to manually add the rules and create a network object for the source and the destination. And it was a long and painful procedure. Although we have a very detailed SK about it, it was just very detailed. Very detailed. Worry not, my friends. In version R80.20, we have released a new VoIP wizard, which will guide you through creating the right rules based on your topology. Simple and easy to use. First, let's review our topology. We have our Quantum Spark connected to the WAN network, in this case, the 192.168.1.0, which is my physical address at home, and the Quantum Spark WAN adapter is connected to this network. We have the 192.168.100.0 network. It's a wired network protected by Quantum Spark. And since it's the 21st century, we have a wireless network as well, secured by our appliance. We have phones on all three networks. The PBX server is in the WAN network. As you know, Quantum Spark offers out-of-the-box security. So if we'll check the current policy, it will only have these auto-generated rules, and incoming traffic to the Quantum Spark device will be dropped. Here I have a soft phone app, and I'm initiating a call to a client which is behind the Quantum Spark box. And as you can see and hear, the call could not be completed.
The person at extension 300 is unavailable. Please leave your message after the tone. When done, hang up or press the pound key.
Let's select VoIP from the menu on the left. Turn it on. In my case, the SIP server is off-premise, as it's on our WAN. I will create a new object to represent the IP of the PBX server. Next, I will configure the devices which are on-premise. I will create network objects for every network I have and add them to the list. That's it! You can see the cool topology that was generated on the right, illustrating our topology. It's much nicer than the one I created manually before. I call dibs! If you scroll down, you will see the properties of SIP services and the ports they use. Make sure your clients are configured to use port 5060 as the source port as well. Now, let's see if it all works. I have my soft phone app on the left, and let's try to make a call. Looks like we have an incoming call from George. We did it.
Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Management options, local management. By the end of this training, you'll be able to configure Quantum Spark as a locally managed device. When you want to manage your Quantum Spark appliance, there are three main options. Locally managed, when you use the same single web applications to manage both the security policy and the device configuration. Second option is centrally managed. This is, you might say, the classic method in Checkpoint, where you have a security management server on site or on cloud, which manages all the gateways within the organization. So then you'll use SmartConsole to manage your security policy and the web UI to manage the device itself. The third option is the Spark management, which you'll use if you are using a much larger scale. So you have dozens or hundreds of Quantum Spark gateways and you want to manage them all. So it's a beautiful feature. However, in this video, we'll show you how to set up the local managed Quantum Spark. The local managed device, you only need the web UI, so it's a single pane to do everything, manage the device and the security policy. So if you have a single device, this is a great option for you. And here I have a VNF, and I'm going to run through the first time wizard to show you how you can select the locally managed option. Hitting next. For password, I'm just going to go ahead and type something. Time zone is okay. I'm just going to use the auto-generated name here. And here we go, local management. And I can go ahead and use that option to locally manage my device. So I'm just going to go ahead and press next. And by the end of First Time Wizard, my device will be locally managed. So it's going to look like this, where you have one web application to manage both the device and the security policy.
Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Management options, central management. By the end of this training, you'll be able to configure Quantum Spark as a centrally managed device. In a previous video, we've discussed the three options to manage your Quantum Spark. It can either be locally managed, which means you'll use the local web application to manage your device. You can either use the central managed option, which we'll use right now, which means you'll use a dedicated management server to manage your appliance, or through Spark Management. In this specific video, we'll walk you through using centrally managed device. If you're using the central managed device, it means the web UI is only going to be useful for OS configuration, managing IP addresses and stuff like that. But the security policy aspect, that will be configured through SmartConsole. Why would you use this? Because it's scalable. You have multiple gateways, multiple locations, you want to manage it from a single place. That's why you'll use centrally managed device. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to set up a management server which will manage this box right here. Since my device is after First Time Wizard and I don't want to go ahead and reset it, I'll need to adjust it from the web UI. So I'm going to Home, Security Management, select Central, and hit Apply. And the first thing you can see is how everything here changed. You no longer see everything related to the security policy because you will now do that from SmartConsole. So just like any security gateway, you now need to go ahead and set up a SIG password. So I'm going to set up. Now I don't have security management service, but this is something you can definitely do. In my case, I have a classic open server security management server. Press next. I'll connect to the management server later. Press finish. Now I have SIG ready. Now I'll need to go to SmartConsole, set up a new gateway, Classic, give it a name, the IP address, under hardware, I'm going to select my appliance, communication, set up the password, okay, trust established, press OK. I have the proper topology. Press OK. Let me go ahead and install the policy. And that's it. Succeeded. So I now have a security management server managing a classic open server security gateway and a 1590 appliance, which is my very own Quantum Spark device. Thank you for watching. Management options, Spark Management. By the end of this training, you'll be able to connect Quantum Spark to Quantum Management Portal. As we discussed in previous videos, there are 3 ways to manage your Quantum Spark. The first option is the locally managed, where you use the single web application to manage both the security policy and the device itself. Next, we have the centrally managed option, where you need a dedicated security management server. Can be open server, can be on cloud, can be on an appliance, but it's more scalable. And if you want it to be even more scalable, you would use the Spark Management option. So Quantum Spark Management is great because it's a single console to manage thousands of customers. It's part of Checkpoint's Infinity Portal cloud management solution, provides unified management, monitoring, and analysis, granular role-based administration, and as you can see, provide extensive logging, reporting, simplified group-based security provisioning using plans. So the idea is you set up a plan, you modify the plan with the security blades, the firewall policies, and so on, and you assign a gateway to a plan. As easy as that. So I've connected to the Infinity Portal using my account, and as you can see at the moment, I have 0 gateways and a single plan. If I click on the plans, I have the initial plan. You can see the blades that are enabled. I'm going to go ahead and modify it. Going to security software blades, firewall access policy, and just a few minutes ago I've added a manual rule to allow WeTransfer, and I've saved that already. Now I'm going to gateways, and I'm going to add a gateway. So this is going to be a small office appliance. The name is going to be Spark 1. Registration key, I'll use that. Finish. Okay, so now I have prepared everything I need for the gateway. Now I'll need to go to the gateway itself and introduce myself to Quantum Spark Management. I'm now copying the activation key. Now I'm going to Home, Cloud Services, Configure, And it's just a single string. You just paste it, press apply. Let's hit details. I can see the status if I want to. And we'll just wait for a few minutes. I'm now connected. I can do details to get that information. Let me show you a cool thing. In a previous video, I have manually added a rule to allow Dropbox on the appliance. From the Quantum Spark management, I've modified the plan to allow WeTransfer. If I'll go to Access Policy, here we go. I can see the Dropbox rule and the WeTransfer rule. And you can see that this rule takes preference as well. So that's really cool. And we have now successfully added Quantum Spark to be managed via Quantum Spark management. Thank you for watching. User Management Active Directory. By the end of this training, you'll be able to add a new Active Directory domain to Quantum Spark. User management is essential for when you want to use either user awareness, meaning you don't want to see just an IP address, but you want to know, hey, that's Bob. And for when you want to use VPN, for example, it's very common to set up users so I can authenticate by my username when I'm connected remotely. You can create those users locally on the appliance, or you can sync and get them through Active Directory. So in the next demo, I'm going to connect my Active Directory server with my Spark appliance. Let's see how easy that is. If you would like to run this demo yourself, you'll need to have the information about your domain controller, the IP address, and credentials. From the Infinity portal, I'm going to Users and Objects, Active Directory Queries, Configure, my domain name. I've added my domain name, my IP address, username, and password. And if I'll hit Discover, it worked. So it managed to pull the distinguished name from the domain. Hit Apply. And for example, if I'll go to VPN, Remote Access User, I can go to Add, Active Directory Group, and I can see the group I've created on my Active Directory domain server. I can just add them. So in this case, for VPN, any user that's part of this group will be able to set up, in this case, a VPN tunnel.
Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Threat Prevention Out-of-the-Box State. By the end of this training, you'll be able to evaluate the out-of-the-box state of the device. Once you have completed the first-time wizard, all of the threat prevention blades are enabled. Updates are pending, so after you've ran the first-time wizard and you have established internet connectivity, you'll be able to get the latest updates. SSL inspection is currently disabled, but the device is using HTTPS categorization instead. I have now switched over to my Quantum Spark VNF appliance, meaning this is not my real physical appliance, it's a virtual one, because I wanted a fresh install without any of the updates. So if I'll go to Threat Prevention, I can see that in terms of the blades, IPS, antivirus, antibot, and threat prevention are enabled, and I have updates pending. So all of the updates are scheduled automatically. I can click
on one of those, I can see this schedule updates. This IPS is up to date. I can go to antivirus. If I go to schedule updates, here I can see that IPS, antivirus, antibot, and application control are all scheduled to have a daily task to run the update at 1 a.m. But if I want to, I can always go and click update now and update the device right now. Policy, by default we're using the recommended policy, logging everything that happens, protection activation, so vulnerabilities that are at high confidence will be prevented, medium confidence will be prevented, low confidence will be detected. I can go and set up exceptions if I want to. Here I can see the infected device within my network, a list of the IPS protections, modify the engine settings, modify anti-spam, exceptions, and also the SSL status, which currently is disabled. I mean, it's not disabled, but it's not using classic SSL traffic inspection. It's using HTTPS categorization. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Threat Prevention SSL Inspection. By the end of this training, you'll be able to enable SSL inspection and enable inspection by asset type. The SSL traffic inspection inspect traffic that is encrypted by the Secure Socket Layer protocol. All hosts behind the gateway must install the Gateway CA certificate. The blades that are supported are application control and URL filtering, IPS, antivirus, anti-bot, and threat emulation. However, by default, SSL traffic inspection is not being used, and we're using HTTPS categorization instead, which is filtering specified HTTPS URLs and applications without activating SSL traffic inspection based on the URL in the certificate file. You can easily switch from HTTPS categorization into SSL traffic inspection, but as you'll see in the demonstration, if you want to enable traffic inspection, there are a few things you need to do. First, you need to disable SmartConsole, and you also need to deploy the certificate within your clients. When enabling SSL inspection, you can select a bypass policy, meaning certain services or certain networks won't be inspected and the traffic will be bypassed. For example, you can bypass based on the network, if it's a trusted network or an untrusted network. For example, one of your wireless networks. So you can say that any traffic coming from a trusted network would be bypassed. Or to bypass based on a category. So if the user will browse to a financial website, traffic won't be inspected and it will be bypassed. I've switched to my 1590 appliance. I'll go to Access Policy, SSL Inspection. Now you can see that currently I'm using HTTPS categorization. If I would like to switch to SSL traffic inspection, I can see this warning. SSL inspection is not supported when SmartConsole services is on. So we'll need to press OK, go to SmartConsole, and disable it. Once you disable SmartConsole, you can go back to Policy and enable SSL traffic inspection. Now, I really like how informative this Quantum Spark is. I really like this comment here. To deploy SSL inspection, download CA certificate and install it on the hosts. You can click on download, and here's the certificate, which you can later go ahead and install it. And if you click more info, you can see that to enable outbound HTTPS traffic inspection, follow these steps, and you can see these specific steps showing you how to do that. Press close, and let's talk about this setting here to inspect based on the asset, meaning do I want to inspect desktops, laptops, or maybe select specific assets. For example, IP phones, and whatever it is that you like from this list. So you can select to enable SSL traffic inspection, which categories you want to bypass, which sources you want to bypass, and also if you want to bypass or inspect based on the asset that's being used. And if you want, more information is available in SK 12.12.14. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Networking configure interfaces. By the end of this training, you'll be able to configure network interfaces on your Quantum Spark. Once you have this beautiful device, you would probably want to configure your local network. So the first thing you'll do is to configure DHCP. The SMB can support the DHCP protocol, meaning it will assign IP addresses to any device with an interface configured to obtain a dynamic IP address. By default, your subnet would be 192.168.1.0, and of course you can go ahead and modify it to match your actual needs. You can configure each port to act as part of the same network, meaning same LAN, or you can split it into separate networks. So either this will act as a switch or as different networks. On some of the devices, you can customize a specific port to act as a DMZ port or just another port on your network. The Quantum Spark can also support VLAN as well, so you can configure a VLAN interface if that's what you want to use within your organization. Back on my appliance, from the device internet, I can see the external interfaces. In this case, I have two. One was connected directly to WAN, and the other one is connected over cellular using a SIM card. I can see one of them is connected and active, the other one is disconnected. If I'll go to local network, I can see that I have a LAN 1 switch. My local subnet is 192.168.2.1. Subnet mask is 24. And here's my MAC address. And out of those 8 ports, I have one port that is being used. You can see the status right here. And at the moment, all of these ports are part of the same network, which means if I'll take a printer or a TV or just another computer and plug it into this port, it will be part of this same network. Now, if I want to, I can go to Edit. I can select which ports will be assigned to this network. I can check them in and out. I can configure the interface configuration if I wanted to act as an unassigned network or as a separate network. I can configure the local IP address, the DHCP settings. I have additional DHCP settings, for example, which DNS address to assign all of my DHCP clients, which default gateway I want to provide them, the lease of the DHCP. So 4 hours here, but you can go ahead and modify it and customize other settings as well. I can see that at the moment the DMZ is a separate network that I have here. I can go ahead and add a VLAN interface if I want to, a virtual access point, a VPN tunnel, and other configurations as well. I also have the wireless network here. In this case I have two. It's pretty small, but it's the 5 GHz and the 2.4 GHz, but we'll discuss this in a separate video. If I'll go to my Windows client machine, I have all of these network interfaces right here. If I'll go to this one, this is the interface that I'm using to connect to the actual device. I'll go to Details, and I can see my MAC address. I mean, this is the MAC address of my laptop, but look at this line. Who is my default gateway? 2.1. 2.1, that's my actual appliance. So here I can actually see who's my default gateway. In this case, the SMB Quantum Spark device. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Networking Enable Wireless Network. By the end of this training, you'll be able to enable the wireless network and monitor other access points. On the appliance, I went to Device and Wireless, and I can see that I have the 2 radio bands available. The 5 GHz is configured but disabled. The 2.4 is not configured. So let's start with that. Configure. Select the name. I've configured the network name, protected network 2.4, so people would know that this network is, well, it's going to be slower. The security type, my authentication is using a password, and the password is going to be whatever it is that you want. Press apply. If I'll go to edit settings, I can see the name again. I can change it if I want to. I can see the security type, the encryption type, the password. Now from this page, if you want, you can generate a new password, which is going to be much harder to guess. Here from the wireless network tab, I can see the DHCP settings, the subnet that will be used, access policy, allow access from this network to local networks, or you can disable it, other DHCP settings, and advanced. Press apply. In this case, I've modified the password. I'll enable the 5 GHz radio, and since I'm enabling these networks, my Watchtower application keeps popping with notifications because now there's a new network available, so it tells me about everything that's going on, so it's interesting. I can go to password protected. I can modify only the password if I want to. Press cancel. I can go to edit settings, see those settings again, same settings, of course. If I'll click here, this settings on top, this is the actual radio settings. So if I'll click on that, I can see the frequencies that will be used, the transmitter power that will be used. I can run a schedule when this network will be available. So for example, it can only run during business hours if you want to. Now that I have enabled the wireless networks, if I'll go to local networks, I can see those networks right here. I can see the subnet that is being used. I can see that they're up. And if I'll go to logs and monitoring, under wireless active devices, I'll see nothing. So let me go ahead and add the device. So I've connected my personal computer to the wireless network. So I'll go and hit refresh. And look, there's a new device on the network. Daniel's Air. The network that it's connected to, the channel that's being used, the frequency, the signal strength, and everything. It detects that this is Apple. Next, I can go to access points. Now, unlike the previous display that we saw, the previous display was show me all of the devices that are currently connected to my network. This shows you all of the access points surrounding you. So you can see your neighbors, you can see other cafes, other businesses that are surrounding you. This is good if you want to see, for example, if there's any noise. Maybe there's another network close to you, and maybe they're using the same channel. So usually it's automatic, the channel selection, but still, this is great data. And if you're familiar with wireless networks, this is a page you want to see just to better understand the wireless networks surrounding you. So this is a great page. But if you want to get an information, you need to make sure that your wireless networks are enabled. And at a glance, I can see that here I'm using channel 11 and here I'm using channel 40. Right at a glance, so this is really nice. And you can also see that 16 adjacent access points use the same channel. That's why the 5 GHz is usually much better. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Networking enables cellular.
By the end of this training, you'll be able to enable the cellular connection on your appliance. Enabling the cellular connection is really easy, but when you think about it, everything is easy when you want to configure your Quantum Spark. Based on the model you're using, it can support 1 or 2 SIM cards, so you can use several connections. In this case, I only have 1 SIM card, so let me show you how easy it is to configure it. We'll go to Device, Internet, Configure Internet. The interface that I'm using is not WAN, it's actually the cellular connection. Give it a name, press Apply. And here we go. I have an active connection. I can see that SIM1 is connected to Cellcom and I have a 4G connection. 0% failures, the latency. I can do connection monitoring and see connections going to Google, Cloudflare, and OpenDNS. I can monitor the cellular modem itself. It's nice, I can see the temperature. And you have lots of useful information right here. Press close. And now that I have internet connection, I can show you another cool thing, which is to fetch the license. So I can do activate license. And because I have internet connectivity, I'll be able to get my activation file from the user center because I have internet connection and my appliance is registered. New license was obtained. Press OK. And now I have a license as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Reach My Device Configuration. By the end of this training, you'll be able to configure Reach My Device. Reach My Device service allows you to remotely connect to the appliance from the internet so that you can use the web UI or CLI when necessary. This is done by tunneling the administrative UI or CLI connections through a Checkpoint cloud service. Such configuration is very useful in instances where the appliance is behind NAT device or firewall and cannot be reached directly. In addition, the feature makes it easier to access an appliance with a dynamically assigned IP address. When the security gateway enables the Reach My Device service, an outgoing tunnel to the Checkpoint cloud service is established with the appliance IP address. The gateway registers the application server, receives ports and the SSH server hostname, and then opens the SSH tunnel on the SSH server on the specific ports received. If we'll talk about my own home appliance, I don't have a public IP address. I have a dynamic IP address that I got from the ISP. And if I want to reach the device from anywhere around the world, I'll need to enable Reach My Device. The service is free and it's so useful. Let me show you how to use it. From the appliance, we'll go to Device Access. At the moment, I am not registered to use the service. I'll need to do Register. I'll need to select some sort of a unique name. For now, let's use this one. This is a random name, so it's going to be available. And let's just use this one for now. You can see that there is an option to register with an existing hostname. I'll do that later. For now, I'm going to use this one. If you change the hostname, all Watchtower mobile app users must pair the mobile devices again. We'll talk about that later. For now, let's hit Apply. And I'm connected. This is my hostname. You can see those unique URLs that I'll have. A validation token. So now I can go and click this. And here's a cool thing. Regardless of the network I'll be connected to, this link, this specific link, will take me
to my own appliance. So I'll be able to manage it from wherever I am around the world, as long as I'm connected to the internet, of course.
Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Reach my device, reuse name. By the end of this training, you'll be able to reuse Reach My Device hostname. In a previous module, we've discussed Reach My Device, and we've discussed that once you enable it, you're given a unique hostname by default, and that hostname needs to remain unique, and you can use it to access your device from wherever it is that you want. But what if I'm going to reset this box, and I would like to use the same hostname again? If I would try that, I'll get an error message saying that hostname is already in use, so you can't just take it from someone else. So if you want to reuse your hostname, you need to have two things: the hostname you want to reuse and this validation token. So if tomorrow I would like to set up a new device with the same link, I'll need to type this as it was, because otherwise it's going to be a new name, and then paste this validation token. And if you'll do that, you'll be able to reuse your name. Let me show you. So I've changed the name to test name. I'll go to edit settings and I'll paste my previous name. I'm going to paste my token here, press apply. And now I've successfully configured Reach My Device to use my previous hostname. By adding the validation token, which I have saved aside because I was prepared, I can now reuse the same link that I've used before to manage my device.
Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Mobile configure Watchtower. By the end of this training, you'll be able to configure Watchtower. Watchtower is a Checkpoint mobile application which you can install on your mobile devices and monitor your security appliance. It gives you a network security snapshot. You can see security alerts, on-the-spot threat mitigations, policy configuration, customized push notifications. You can prioritize event notifications, and simple management of multiple gateways. Let's see how to configure it. From the main overview page, I'm going to pair your mobile device. The administrator I'm going to use is admin. I'm going to generate a QR code. On the left here, you can see my actual mobile device. So if you want to add a new device, you'll just hit the plus. Scan this QR code, and here I can see lots of cool information about my device. I can see that I'm connected to the internet. If I had a VPN, I could have seen some VPN traffic. If I'll go to statistics, these are statistics from the last hour. And I can see how much traffic was being used. And you can also see the security updates. In this case, I'm up to date with everything. Wireless network. Let's see if I'll see my actual network that I'm using. So I'm currently connected to this network right here. Status is up. Here's the IP address. And I can see that there are two protected devices. Now if I'll go back to the Web UI portal, I can see these two wireless devices that are connected. One is my mobile device and the other one is the actual laptop that I'm using. And if I'll go to paired mobile devices, I can see that the admin is connected from an Apple iPhone device, and that's the device I've used to connect to the Watchtower application. Really cool, really useful. Go ahead and install it.
Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Updates, manual and automatic. By the end of this training, you'll be able to update the device and run a manual update. Let's see how easy it is to upgrade the operating system on your Quantum Spark. Straight away, I can see a notification that a new firmware is available. But let's say I don't know about this page. So we simply go to Device, System Operations, and I can see that a new firmware version is available. I'm going to click Upgrade Now. So, a few moments later, the upgrade is complete. So now if I'll go to Device and System Operations, I can see that I have the latest version. Now what I've done here was an automatic upgrade, but sometimes you'll want to do a manual upgrade. In that case, you'll go to Manual Upgrade, Next, select the image you would like to use, press Open, Upload, Upload finished, press Next, Next again. And now I'm installing the new image manually. And I can see that the upgrade is complete, and please wait while the appliance reboots. Please do not pull out the power cable. Appliance will be up in about 207 seconds. And when it's done, I'll have a new version of my appliance. And 207 seconds later, the Spark appliance have rebooted, and now I can log in. And done. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. VPN site-to-site. By the end of this training, you'll be able to configure site-to-site VPN. VPN, Virtual Private Networks. There are two main flavors of VPN. One is remote access, where you allow endpoint devices such as mobile devices and laptops to connect securely to your remote gateway. And the other one is site-to-site, where you have two gateways, maybe on two branch offices, and you want to establish a secure connection between those two. So in my network, I'm going to have two Quantum Spark boxes on my so-called WAN network, and I'm going to establish a VPN connection between those two sites. It's all done using the web UI. It's graphic, it's very simple. Let's have a look. I'm under VPN sites, and I'm going to set up new. Setting up VPN requires you to set up both sites. I've already set up the remote site, so once I set up this, VPN would be running. Here, I'll need to set up the IP address of the remote site. The pre-shared secret we've agreed on. As for the encryption domain, I'm going to use the routing table. Now, if you want, you can modify the encryption or other advanced options, but for now, I'm going to stay with the defaults and hit apply. And as I mentioned, since I've already set up the other site, you can see that the tunnel test finished successfully. If I'll go to VPN tunnels, I can see there's an active tunnel. And if I'll go to my Watchtower app, click VPN, and I can see that there's currently one VPN site active. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
VPN remote access. By the end of this training, you'll be able to configure remote access VPN. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. It has two main flavors. One is remote access, when you allow remote users using laptops, mobile devices to connect securely to your remote gateway. And site-to-site, which allows two remote gateways to communicate with each other securely, setting up a virtual private network. In this video, we'll discuss the remote access. I really like this menu from the web UI because it summarizes all of those different VPN flavors we offer. Each setting has a simple checkbox and the instructions telling you how to set it up, with even links to applications, and everything you need is right here from this menu. So we'll jump to the web UI and show you how to do it yourself. So what we're going to do is we have the Quantum Spark on our artificial WAN network, and I have a few mobile devices on this WAN network, and I'm going to connect over VPN to my Quantum Spark. From VPN blade control, I'm going to enable Windows VPN client, set up the pre-shared key. In this case, it's going to be VPN 123. And if you'll click how to connect, you have all the information you need right here. Same goes for mobile client, Checkpoint VPN clients, or an SSL VPN if that's what you're fancy. Same goes for Checkpoint VPN clients, mobile client, SSL VPN. Just enable it, follow the instructions, and you're good to go. One more thing I'll need to do is to set up a user. So I'm going to Remote Access Users, Add. I'll set up the username, password. I can set up email, phone number, and other comments as well. Press Apply. As you can see, I have mobile client enabled, which enable VPN remote access mobile clients to connect via Checkpoint mobile VPN client. On the right, I have my mobile phone, so I'm going to my business applications, Capsule Connect. I have the username, Simple Rick, my password, and you can clearly see that I'm connected. And if I'll go and see the connected remote users, I can see Simple Rick is indeed connected. This is another laptop that I have, and I've set up Simple Rick to set up a VPN connection. I've added the gateway's IP address, my username. And now all I need to do is to enable VPN. And you can see I'm connected. And here's my remote connection. And back on the Watchtower app, I can go to Internet, VPN. I can still see the site-to-site VPN tunnel. And if I'll go to Users, I can see Simple Rick is connected from two different IP addresses. From the Logs and Monitoring tab, I can go to VPN tunnels. Here's the site-to-site VPN tunnel that I have. And to see the remote VPN users, I'll need to go to VPN Connected Remote Users. And by the way, to add the user, if I were to have Active Directory enabled, I could have just used the Active Directory users as the remote VPN users as well.
Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Monitoring. By the end of this training, you'll be able to use the Monitoring tab to monitor the network environment. Here I am in my 1519 appliance, and we'll just go over all of these settings right here. First, we have the security logs. So any security incidents you'll have regarding the policy will be shown here. You can run queries, refresh, clear the logs, and other cool stuff. We have system logs. If you were to have any external log servers, you'll be able to configure them right here. Notifications. So personally, I get these notifications on my Watchtower app, so it's really cool. Active devices. These are all the devices that are currently connected to my Quantum Spark. Wireless active devices. I have two right here. paired mobile devices. So if I were to have any users who are using Watchtower, I would have seen them right here. In my case, I've reset my appliance, but if you saw the Watchtower video, you saw the device was there. Infected device, currently I don't have any, I'm good. VPN tunnels, if you were to have any VPN tunnels, you would see information about the tunnel right here. Connections, I can see connections going through my device. Access points, if you have the wireless networks enabled, you can go ahead and scan networks in your area. If we go to monitoring itself, here we can see information about the current connections. We have a breakdown of the different applications that were being used. I can go and switch to categories instead, and I can see instant messaging, general search engine, and so on. I'll go back to applications. We can change to sites, users. In this case, I don't have user awareness, so it's just 100% same thing. This is nice. You can see traffic over time, reports. I can go to demo here as well. And here just have a little bit more information, so it just looks nicer. I'll go back. And if I'll click here, it can also take me to do some troubleshooting, meaning to show me monitoring about the actual CPU, memory, and disk usage. I can hit refresh, and I can start seeing those live graphs about the memory usage and CPU usage, and also disk here below as well. Click on reports. You get nice reports about the traffic that was being used. Really nice. Can be useful as well. You can print it straight from here. Really, really nice.
Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Troubleshooting Tools Overview. By the end of this training, you'll be able to use the diagnostic tools to collect valuable data and generate reports. Back on my 1519 appliance, I'm at the Device Tools tab, and from here we have lots of small tools which can be useful for troubleshooting. For example, monitoring the system resources. I can hit refresh, and then I have CPU usage, memory usage, and disk usage live, really useful. Show the routing table. Now, of course, you can also just open up a command line and do that yourself, but it's nice to have it in a graphical method right here. Router configuration, for example, for OSPF, which at the moment I have nothing. I only have the area enabled, but later on, if you'll have OSPF enabled, you'll be able to see that information here. The test cloud services ports, which will verify that the appliance could connect to cloud services. You have a graphic TCP dump tool, where you set up like a host, a port, and then you'll see it here. DSL statistics. At the moment, I don't have any. I'm not connected over DSL. Monitor the cellular modem. So I can see 4G, LTE, signal strength. I'm using SIM1, SIM2 is not available, temperature, and other cool stuff. This will generate a CP info file, which you can later send to your technical support or someone to help you figure out if something doesn't work. So just click on that, it will generate the report, and later you'll be able to send it over to whoever it is you're working with. You can also generate Dr. Spark. Dr. Spark is a cool utility that generates lots of useful traffic regarding Spark and help you troubleshoot if something doesn't work. And there's also the Dr. Spark load as well, a performance test in this case, useful tools. You can send a ping straight from here. So yes, you can open up a CLI window and run a ping, or you can just do it from here. And in this case, the ping works. And a DNS lookup as well. You can also download a USB-C driver for your appliance, so you can go ahead and have a console connection to your appliance. In this case, the Dr. Spark performance report is ready. I can click download, and it will download this report. Same for CP info file. and now I have these files ready.
Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Troubleshooting backups. By the end of this training, you'll be able to create a backup file and restore a backup file. From the Device tab, if I'll go to System Operations, there are a few very useful utilities you can use here. First one is to just reboot the appliance, restore to factory default settings, but the firmware will remain as is. Factory defaults revert to the factory default image and settings. In this case, my factory firmware version is R80 2015. Firmware upgrade, so you can do check now to get an online upgrade from the Checkpoint servers, or you can do it manually. We've done this before. Revert to the previous image. In this case, this is my previous version, and set up a backup. So I can create a backup file. I can encrypt it if I want to. And tomorrow, if something didn't work, I want to revert, I've messed something up, I can always just do restore. Browse to that file and restore if needed.
Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Networking dynamic routing. By the end of this training, you'll be able to enable OSPF on an interface. When you talk about dynamic routing, there's so much to discuss. It's a very efficient way to build your routing table in a dynamic and automatic manner. So you need to enable the dynamic routing protocol, configure it, and watch the magic happens. When you think about dynamic routing, OSPF and BGP are two common, very useful dynamic routing protocols that come to mind. In this demo, I'll show you how to configure OSPF on your Quantum Spark. For the purpose of this demo, I've already set up a Checkpoint Security Gateway running OSPF, and what we'll do here is I'll set up the Quantum Spark to establish neighbor relationship with that router. Going to OSPF, add an interface. So I'll be using LAN 1, area 0. I'm going to keep the intervals as default, 10 and 40. This is not going to be a passive interface. Press apply. And now, if I'll go to the routing table, and here it is. Look at this beautiful route. If you want to reach 10.1.1.0/24, your next hop is this address. And this is an OSPF protocol. It's a dynamic route. And all I had to do was to just configure OSPF. And the cool thing was, I've configured OSPF on the Quantum Spark using a graphical interface, which is such a relief, actually. That's really cool. I really love this feature, and I hope you'll take the time to do it yourself.
Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.